Welcome to Stitch Picks, everyone. I am Stitch O'Donovan, your host. It's February now, which is the month that has Valentine's Day in it. And so naturally, let's talk about some songs and albums that sound like being in love. Aww. I'm going to give a list of song recommendations, and then I'm going to give a list of album recommendations. So we're going to alternate between those two categories. We're going to first start out with some song recommendations. Danielle by Fred Again is Fallen in Love at the Club. There's a line about, if I die in your arms, there'd be a smile on my face, which is... it's a romantic sentiment. It's a song that doesn't care how people feel about it other than the person that it's for. And that is also quite romantic.
Why does this rain pour down? I'm gonna drown.
Hang On Little Tomato by Pink Martini. It's got that clarinet. It's kind of a Disney Pixar soundtrack kind of vibe. And I think this one is definitely a more encouraging maternal love than maybe a romantic love. But, you know, we're going to cover all kinds of love on this list. I remember I got my wisdom teeth out a while back. And maybe my first bit of consciousness after all of the drugs and stuff, I could just feel my swollen face and it just hurt so much, and I put this song on and I felt like everything was gonna be okay. I Love You All by the Soarin' Perfubs is from the movie Frank, so I highly suggest, if you haven't seen that movie yet, don't look this song up before you've seen the movie. I think the placement of this song in the film is particularly evocative of a love for the simple and a love for things as they are, and how there's a beauty in the simple. And it's also an appreciation song for close friendships as well. Next up is Waiting for the Heart to Beat by Lights On. My first introduction to this one was as the intro song to the Fred movie, famously hated film. I'm a Fred movie sympathizer a little bit. Maybe it's just because I grew up with it. We can talk about that another time. But despite the possible underutilization of this song in the Fred movie, I think it's got a very life is short, let's love as hard as we can now kind of feel to it. And this song wouldn't be out of place in a movie like Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist or any of those kind of coming-of-age rom-com films. Young Folks by Peter, Bjorn, and John. This is kind of a strange pick, perhaps. The song itself, musically, doesn't feel particularly sultry or sensual or anything like that. But I think the message is really what compels me to put this on the list of songs that sound like love. Because the duet in this song is about being worried of someone judging you from your past, and the affirmation that we all have a past, and that's okay. People grow, and it's just really sweet that these two characters are not judging each other for who they were, and are instead looking at who each other are, and they're just existing together, and that's lovely. It's a very non-performative love. Be Mean by Tweens. Love comes in all sorts of forms, and sometimes we are attracted to that which is bad for us and repelled by that which is good for us. And this is a song about that. It's this kind of lo-fi surf punk song. I really like that style. I think it's just so cool. And if someone put this on a mixtape for me, I would blush. Last Night on Earth by Green Day is found on 21st Century Breakdown, one of their most volatile albums in quality. We'll talk about that at some point. But the highs on that record are high, and this is a high on that album. It's kind of a love, concept album, but it's also kind of not. Again, I don't think the album is strong enough to warrant being in the albums list, but this song in particular is really good. It's a desperate love, hoping that in the apocalypse, your feelings will reach the other person by way of text message that may or may not get to them before it ends. And that's tragic, romantic. There's a lot there to unpack. Next up, we have To Binge by Gorillaz. This one is kind of understated, kind of lackadaisical. I really like the guitar line on this one. And what strikes me is the specific lyric, "I just had to let you know that I love you so much these days." That feels like such a married for 30 years kind of thing to say to somebody. Just like sitting around your house casually. It's just so sweet. It's so cute. Bluish by Animal Collective. This is another one that's kind of lackadaisical in its content. It's kind of about, instead of going out on a date, it's about staying in and going in on a date, and how beautiful one's partner can look, not just in the context of dressing to the nines for the club, but in sweatpants at home. There's the lines about tracing circles on each other's skin. There's the line, "not for boys, just for me." Everyone can see how gorgeous you are out there, but you are gorgeous to me in here. And there's kind of the heartbeat drums going on. I really like the synth tone for the lead melody. The doo, 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 doo. I'll probably cut that out. Next is Ramona by Beck, commissioned for the movie Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I think this song is a much better example of love than anything you may find in the movie. That is not the best place for a lesson in love. But the song Ramona is about coming to be in love with who you really are, and how when you try to impress somebody, you may wear a persona or kind of upplay and downplay certain personality aspects to impress that person. And you kind of lose yourself in that. And this song is about reclaiming who you really are. Treehouse by Alex G and Emily Asina. This one is so cozy and comfortable. It's simplistic but incredibly profound. "Do not enter" is written on the doorway. "Why can't everyone just go away except you? You can stay." That is an introvert in love, if I've ever heard it. And that's a deep love, a place where not anyone can just go, but being vulnerable to open that part of yourself up. That's so sweet. It's nice and relaxed, but it's still so sweetly sung. And it's the beauty being invited into someone's inner circle. There's a lot of Caroline Polachek songs I could have put on here, but this one just felt right. The best example of something I haven't quite covered yet, and that is being disappointed by how much you care about somebody. There's the line about how, she's flipping through these pictures of them out at the club, seeing them enjoying themselves and having a good time and thriving is causing this reaction of I'm so upset by how much this is giving me the butterflies.
Should I try to hide?
The Way I Feel Inside by the Zombies is not a certain love. It is very uncertain. And I think what this does better than other songs about this kind of, should I confess my feelings? Should I not confess my feelings? I think that where those things kind of fail is that they feel too performative. Whereas this Zombies track feels very authentic and genuine. It's just vocals and very, very light sound effects and maybe light organ, I think, in the background eventually. But it encapsulates that unknowing feeling, but it's not too creepy or uncertain because the melody itself is really catchy and melancholic, but kind of hopeful. It really hits that sweet spot that I really, really like in melody writing. Without You, My Life Would Be Boring by The Knife. This is just a festival of love, dancing around, unable to control your body because of how important this person is to you. Super, super fun. Not very conventional, but a banger, an absolute banger.
The grass covers the sand.
Next is Outside with the Cuties by Frankie Cosmos. This one is whimsical and light. You might be sensing a theme for what I kind of prefer for this kind of song. And it starts with the sentiment of like, all my friends are in love. That becomes contagious because by the second verse, Frankie Cosmos sings about, it's explicit like that. But there's also these really sweet kind of like half roasts, half compliment. Like it's very, very, I'll give an example. Your bug bites on vacation is like not a compliment, but that's such a sweet piece of imagery that it's coded in this sweetness that makes it digestible and makes it feel sweet. I don't know. Listen to the song. It's very good. Sadie Hawkins Dance by Reliant K. This is a pull from my early high school career. I don't believe in guilty pleasure songs. This one is just a banger, and it's kind of cheesy, but that makes it fun. It's about this underdog guy who's very confident in himself that someone's going to ask him to the Sadie Hawkins dance. The imagery I'm getting is like Cody from Total Drama Island, but less creepy and just more like comfortable with who he is. He goes through all of these kind of normal school things in stride. He gives a great presentation to the class. He tries to put the moves on some cheerleaders. They reject him, and he's cool about it. The jocks come to beat him up, and he runs away. And finally, someone notices him, and she asks him to the Sadie Hawkins, and it's like, full circle, we made it. Next up is Bodies by Car Seat Headrest. I prefer the 2011 version a little bit because it's got that lo-fi mixtape feel to it, but the 2018 version is also really good. If someone made like a master cut where it starts in the lo-fi and then instantly bursts into the hi-fi, for lack of a better word, that would be pretty awesome. But it's that really earnest but self-aware kind of love song. It's cinematic in how big it gets, and it's a huge declaration. Really good stuff. Shut Up Kiss Me by Angel Olsen is about rekindling an old romance, but I do particularly like the line, "At your worst, I still believe it's worth the fight." That shows that this is not just a reactionary let's get back together, but I can handle this and I want to put in the work. I also really like the music video for this one. And finally, for the last song, we have Time We Had by the Mother Hips. This one is analytical of a past relationship as well, but it's less wanting to go back and more just appreciating it for how it happened. You've got the ghosts in the trees, which is indicative of when they were younger, the place we used to sit, and a really stirring reverse guitar solo. Now we're going to go into albums, which as a whole encapsulate what it feels to be in love. First is And Then Nothing Turned Itself Inside Out by Yo La Tengo. A lot of these songs are about love and navigating romance and relationships. Our Way to Fall, Last Day of Disco, You Can Have It All are all very explicitly about just love. The Crying of Lot G is a little bit self-analytical and open to change for the betterment of a partner. And a lot of it is just kind of sleepy and vulnerable, which I think that's in the same ballpark that we're talking about here. I would be remiss to not bring up The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chappell Roan in this conversation. I, personally, have never been a lesbian, nor will I ever be one, but I do feel like the melodic writing here just has that yearning feeling to it, that like she writes a melody and it has this restless, youthful energy to it. And not all of the songs are explicitly about love and relationships, but they still feel like that. I don't know how to explain it, but if you've heard it, you know what I'm talking about. Next, we have Shell Shag Forever by Shell Shag. Shell Shag is a band of two people who perform with microphones facing each other, looking at each other. They're a couple that play music like this. And that in and of itself is just very, very sweet. And this album, celebrating how much they love doing this, is also very sweet. Particularly the tracks Sweet Hoodie, Come Down, and Dots and Rhyme. The last of which compares the two members to stars in the belt of Orion and how cosmically they're so happy to be here together and doing what they're doing in collaboration, which is just terribly romantic. Floating into the Night by Julie Cruz, God rest her soul. We also recently lost David Lynch, who is a songwriter on this record, God rest his soul, and Angelo Badalamenti, famous for his work on Twin Peaks, also semi-recently passed away, God rest his soul. Now that the dedications are out of the way, I do want to talk about how, despite its Twin Peaks leanings, because a lot of these songs are used in Twin Peaks, this is so liminal and it feels like there's no boundaries. You feel kind of not tied down, like you're floating into the night. These things all mention love and they mention relationships, and it's sometimes reflective, it's sometimes active, it's sometimes very dramatic too, but it's all very, very good stuff. And finally, we have to mention, in conversation about albums related to love, Vespertine by Björk.
I love him, I love him, I love him, I love him.
Every single song on this record is fantastic and is about some kind of love. And it covers a lot of ground. We've got familial love, we've got self-love, we've got very passionate romantic love, but we also have a profound and like non-emotion driven love. And I think this might be the poster child for this whole video because of how strong Björk's message and packaging of all these themes is. And it's just so beautifully orchestrated too. Well, that about does it for my recommendations for albums and songs that sound like being in love. What albums and songs do you like to listen to evoke that feeling? Let me know in the comments. What were some of your favorites from what I listed? Just feel free to comment whatever else you want. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, it might make sense if you hit the like button.
And if you like videos like this video, consider subscribing and clicking on the bell
To be notified when I post next.
For more content, you can check out the other videos on my channel, or you can check out my Patreon.
We have exclusive episodes every month. This month is an episode about a Pokemon song, so if you're a Pokemon fan, maybe go and check that out.
Thanks again, and take care.